Everybody, back for another episode of The Struggle is Real. Because it is. What I want to talk today. If you're familiar with Tai Lopez, he has a lot of his videos on YouTube. He's got a 67-step program. Well, I took it, I signed up for it, and I'm in the middle of it, and I'll tell you what it's like after I'm done. But it is really interesting, and he makes a lot of great points and illustrations. He definitely has a lot of knowledge if you're curious about it. I'm not finished yet, but I'm enjoying it so far. One of the early episodes he talks about is adapting, and he talks about Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin talked about his evolution and that process, we all know he says survival of the fittest, but he doesn't really mean the strongest or the smartest. What he's talking about is your ability to adapt. Those who can adapt are the ones who will survive, because things are always fluctuating, and those who can actually go with the flow, they can change, they will live on, because the others are just, they cannot gel with it, they cannot change, and they're the ones who get left behind, or they wither and die. We don't want you to wither and die. So let me give you an example. We know that change is constant. That's the one thing we know. There's a great story. When I was taking finance classes in college, there was a story of J.P. Morgan, the great banker in the 1900s. He gets on an elevator, and there's the elevator boy, and the boy asks J.P. Morgan, "Mr. Morgan, what will the markets do today?" And Mr. Morgan says to him, "They will fluctuate." That's the one thing he knew they would do. He didn't know if they were going to go up, down, because the markets are rational, but he knew that they would fluctuate. In the same sense, you have to think about where you are in your struggle. Things are constantly changing around you. If you cannot adapt, you'll suffer. I'll give you some examples from my personal life. When I was a little kid, my father would take me with him, and we would visit customers, going location to location. Well, back then, if you were presenting beer, it was 5 minutes. You walked in, here's what I have, Hef, Pilsner, Doppelbock, IPA, yes, no, blah, 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 and you're out. Wine, on the other hand, if you could do it in an hour, 2 hours, you were lucky, because you would sit down, you would taste it with him, they would ask you about the location, the fields, the terroir, as we like to say. So many things would go into the conversation. But today that's changed. Today, if you go and present the beer, they don't just look at it, they want to try it. They want to know, where were those hops grown? What's the hop content? What's the alcohol content? There's so many things that are being asked of you that weren't asked before. So you have to adapt. If you look at wine today, you can now buy wine in a can. Now, wines are starting to become popular in the box system, which, by the way, is probably the best system for wine because it preserves it best. But traditionally, in the U.S., we think of wine in a box as something cheap, and we're adapting more to say, no, the box is just a box. The juice is what matters. So you see, you have to be constantly adapting. I know I read once in Florida, Brazilians were becoming the #1 foreign buyer of real estate. It used to be Canada, but it was becoming Brazilians. So what did a lot of realtors start doing? They started learning Portuguese. Why? They're adapting. We have new buyers, and unless we learn Portuguese, or we find someone who does speak Portuguese, we're going to miss out on sales. In Arcadia, here in Los Angeles, that's becoming a real hub for Chinese buyers. They call it the Chinese Beverly Hills. So a lot of people are starting to construct homes to fit that market and the things that the Chinese want. Very feng shui designed, yada, yada, yada. So you see, if you're not changing, you're the one who's going to break. If you think of an airplane wing is designed to flex, because if it's rigid, it won't be able to bear the load that's put on it, and it will snap, and then the airplane will tumble and die, and everybody will be upset. But if the wing can flex, and you can see it on videos, or if you've ever been on a plane, you'll see the wings going up and down. They can go, the 777, about 154% it can flex. And that's just because that is designed, over-engineered, but to make sure it can always be going with whatever situation it's dealing with. So are you a rigid stick, or can you bounce? You bounce with it. It's something for you to consider. But if you can change, and you can just figure out, things have to be a way for me to get to where I want to go. I can be flexible so that I can get there. Maybe you need to use a Waze app for your journey. But just something to consider, you know what I mean? But it's just wanted to do something quick today. I have to go to San Francisco tomorrow morning. Hopefully I'll be able to take you on the road with me. We'll drive up. I'm going to stay at my friend's house. I'm going there for work. So it'll be a quick trip, but I just wanted to get something in tonight. Alright? So, Godspeed on your journey. Thank you for watching. Remember, I honor your struggle. And I can look forward to speaking with you next time. Take care.